My 28-year-old brother JC proposed to hit girlfriend Issy over the summer. The background to this whole drama is that I plan a lot of parties, and earlier this year I planned the wedding of my boyfriend's sister and was a bridesmaid. I am not a professional. I just have a good grasp of aesthetics and know a lot of people in the local area, so my friends ask or I offer to help with party event planning sometimes. About 6 weeks ago, I got a call from Issy asking me to be her maid of honor. I was very surprised because we don't know each other well and my calendar in the early part of the year is so hectic, I really don't have time. I was upfront with her about this, telling her how flattered I was and that I would be happy to be a bridesmaid if she wanted, but I just wasn't able to take on MOH responsibilities. Issy was annoyed about this and admitted she had expected that I would accept being mock and offer to plan the wedding with her, since I had for my cousin previously and my boyfriend's sister. I said again that if she wanted me to be a bridesmaid, I'd happily do that, but I wasn't going to plan her wedding or associated events. She begrudgingly accepted this, but I had a feeling when it came time to officially have bridesmaid, I wouldn't be one, which is fine. JC never brought this up, so I thought no more about it. A couple of days ago, I got a call from the event coordinator of a hotel I've used for events in the past. This person had questions about my wedding requirements. I was confused, obviously. It transpired that Issy had called this hotel and used my name to get an appointment with the coordinator, and then further dropped my name to try to secure a sizable discount, saying that I was involved in planning the wedding. I was mortified. On a hunch, I called the owner of the restaurant, where I held my parents' anniversary party, to ask if he'd had any contact about an event I'm planning. He had. Again, Issy had called about hosting a bridal shower, again asking for a discount based on my name. I called Issy and said she had the nerve to be touting my name around, embarrassing me in front of people I know and work with, all without my knowledge. We argued. Issy said it shouldn't have been a big deal to mention me, since I wouldn't help her, it's the least I could do, to which I said not, when you try to lowball my contacts and don't even ask me if I'm okay with you using me as a contact. The argument went on until I called her an entitled bridezilla and hung up. JC says I shouldn't have said that to her and just let the venues tell her no on their own, but I think it's nuts that she feels entitled to use my name and then run it through the mud with people who have really helped me in the past. Am I the idiot here? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot. That is bananas behaviour on her part. She and JC are acting like there is no harm or impact of this, but there is, and they are harassing the name you've built for yourself without your consent or involvement. The way you stood up for yourself was entirely reasonable and appropriate. Comment 2, not the idiot. It makes sense that you called Issy out for violating rules by using your name without your consent. Now for the update. A lot has happened since the last time I talked about the whole wedding planning incident with my brother JC's fiancée, Issy. After the whole argument about her using my name to try to get discounts at venues, things cooled down for a bit. I thought maybe we'd reached an understanding, but boy was I wrong. The next few weeks were a blur of passive-aggressive texts and awkward family dinners. Issy seemed to be on a mission to make me look bad in front of our family. She'd drop hints about how stressful wedding planning was without a maid of honor to help, and how she had to do everything on her own. It was clear she was trying to guilt me into stepping up, but I stood my ground. I had already told her I couldn't commit to that role, and I wasn't about to let her manipulative tactics change my mind. Things really came to a head when I found out that Issy had been talking to my friends behind my back. She'd been reaching out to them, asking if they could convince me to help with the wedding planning. My friends, knowing the situation, were quick to tell me about her attempts. I was furious. It felt like a major breach of trust, and it was clear that Issy was not going to let this go. I decided to confront Issy about it. I called her up and asked her point blank why she was involving my friends in our disagreement. She got defensive, saying that she just wanted a beautiful wedding and thought I could make that happen. She didn't seem to understand that it wasn't about the wedding. It was about respecting my boundaries and the fact that I had already said no. The conversation quickly escalated, and we both ended up saying things we probably shouldn't have. I told her that she was being completely unreasonable and that she couldn't just bully people into doing what she wanted. She accused me of being selfish and not caring about my brother's happiness. We ended the call on bad terms, and I was left feeling both angry and a little guilty. JC, caught in the middle of all this, tried to play peacemaker. He asked me to just let it go and help out for the sake of family harmony. I love my brother, but I felt like he wasn't seeing the whole picture. It wasn't just about the wedding, it was about Issy's disrespect and entitlement. I told him that I couldn't just brush everything under the rug and pretend like everything was fine. The tension between Issy and me started to affect other family relationships. My parents were getting stressed out by the constant bickering, and it was putting a strain on my relationship with JC. He was getting more and more frustrated with both of us, and I could tell it was taking a toll on him. Despite all the drama, the wedding planning continued. Issy managed to find a new maid of honor, a friend of hers who seemed all too eager to take on the role. I was relieved, thinking that maybe this would take the heat off me, but it only seemed to make things worse. Issy would make a point of talking about how amazing her new maid of honor was, clearly trying to make me feel bad for not taking on the role myself. As the wedding date got closer, the family was walking on eggshells around Issy and me. It was clear that this wasn't going to be resolved anytime soon. I was still a bridesmaid, but every fitting and meeting was filled with tension. Issy would barely speak to me, and when she did, it was usually to make some snide remark. The latest development came just a few days ago. I found out that Issy had been telling people that I was jealous of her, and that's why I wasn't helping with the wedding. It was such a ridiculous accusation that I couldn't help but laugh, but it also hurt. It felt like she was trying to turn everyone against me. Now, with the wedding only a month away, I'm dreading the thought of having to spend an entire day pretending to be happy for Issy when all I feel is frustration and resentment. I'm worried about how this is going to affect my relationship with JC in the long run. He's my brother, and I hate that we're at odds over this. I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. I don't want to cause a scene at the wedding, but I also don't want to let Issy think that her behaviour is okay. It's a mess, and I have no idea how to fix it without making things worse. The unresolved tension is hanging over us like a dark cloud, and I'm not sure if there's a way to clear the air before the big day. Now for the comments, comment 1. Honey, you're not a party planning service, and it's not your job to bend over backward for Issy's dream wedding. It's one thing to ask for help, quite another to exploit your skills and name for discounts. Stand your ground and don't let her guilt trip you. Family or not, your time and energy are valuable. Comment 2. Oh, the drama. Look, you're not the wedding fairy here to sprinkle magic on Issy's big day. If she wants a discount, maybe she should try a coupon book, not your reputation. Keep your chin up and maybe invest in some popcorn for the next family gathering. It's going to be a show. Now for the next story. I came home to my husband trying to put back together a book I had left. It was flimsy, and a couple of pages had already fallen out. He kept apologizing and said he didn't mean to ruin the book. I told him the pages had already fallen out, and it wasn't his actions that caused it. I asked him why he was acting this way and what caused this change. I'd always liked romance novels, but he only recently changed, after we moved into a studio from a 2-bedroom. He admitted he was annoyed that I spent so much time away from him with my romance novels. When he had a more demanding job and I was in my work-from-home office, he didn't actually see how much time I read. To him, it felt like I chose romance over him. He was the type to write love letters and do things for his partners, but after 2 ex-girlfriends cheated on him, he lost that part of himself. He said it was nice when we met because I didn't ask for romantic things, but the more he sees me engrossed in romance, the more he feels that I want romance, just not with him. He said that sometimes it felt like I didn't love him because we weren't the kiss good morning, say I love you every day kind of couple. He says I only say it back to him after he says I love you. But then he remembers the things I did. From putting socks on his feet when he slept and getting him takeout from his favourite restaurant, to moving across the country for him and tutoring him after he went back to college, big and small things, and remembers that I do love him. Then it makes him feel guilty. I asked him what he wanted me to do. He said he didn't know. He apologised for the book thing and said he didn't really want to throw them away. He was just frustrated and hurt. Original post, I love romance. To be clear, I don't enjoy self-inserts or wish fulfillment romance where I'm the target. I love reading about 2 individuals falling in love and the idea of eternal love. I read a lot of romance books. I also enjoy yosei manga, webtoons, comics and short stories. My husband recently started having an issue with my romance items. He says they are in the way. I keep my books on one bookshelf. I have my own iPad, though I prefer physical books. I have my own library card and account. I do my half of the chores, pay my half of the bills and do my part around the house. The romance books are not affecting his life in any way, but he hates them. He made a comment about throwing them out and having a fresh start. So I bought a small cabinet dresser with a lock on it from Amazon and locked up all of my novels. My husband tried opening the door of one and found out it was locked. Now he is upset and guilt-tripping me, saying that I don't trust him and that I care more about my romance novels than him. Assignments? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. Your husband shouldn't be thinking of throwing out things that belong to you, no matter what percentage of the bills either of you pay, especially without talking to you or getting your permission. And the fact that he knows that the cabinet is locked is a pretty damning sign that he was seriously thinking of following through with his threat, so you were right in not trusting him. Comment 2. Not the idiot. It feels like he is threatened by the romance novels in some way, which is definitely odd. He should probably consider some internal reflection as to why you reading romance novels bothers him so deeply. Now for the update. A lot has happened since the last time I talked about the situation with my husband and my romance novels. After our heart-to-heart, things started to shift in our tiny studio apartment. The air felt less tense, and we began to navigate our shared space with a new understanding of each other's feelings. In the days that followed, my husband made a conscious effort to show his interest in my hobbies. He asked me about the stories I was reading, and to my surprise, he even sat down with me one evening to listen as I read aloud from a particularly gripping chapter. His attention wasn't perfect. He'd occasionally get distracted by his phone, but the effort was there, and it meant the world to me. I, on the other hand, started to make small changes too. I made sure to carve out time during the day when I would put my books down and focus solely on us. We began to have our meals together without any distractions, talking about our day, sharing jokes, and discussing future plans. It was during one of these meals that he brought up the idea of setting up a little reading nook for me. He suggested that we could rearrange the furniture to create a cozy corner where I could keep my books and read without feeling like I was isolating myself from him. The gesture was touching, and it sparked a weekend project. We moved around our limited furniture, and with a bit of creativity, we managed to set up a small but inviting space by the window. He even installed a shelf that was just for my romance novels, so they were no longer in the way, but had their special place in our home. As we worked on this project together, we laughed and bickered playfully, a reminder of the early days of our relationship. It was during these moments that I realized how much I had missed this side of him, the side that enjoyed doing things for his partner. It was clear that he was trying to find his way back to being that person, and I was more than willing to encourage him. One evening after we had finished setting up the nook, he surprised me with a handwritten letter. It wasn't a grand love letter, but it was sweet and sincere. He wrote about how he appreciated the things I did for him, the socks on his feet, the takeout from his favorite restaurant, and how he recognized those as my expressions of love. He apologized for not seeing them for what they were before. This small act of writing a letter seemed to reignite something in him. He started leaving me little notes in the morning, a simple, "Have a great day," or "I love you," scribbled on a post-it note stuck to the fridge. It was a small thing, but it was his way of saying good morning and reminding me of his love in his own way. I reciprocated in my own fashion. I made sure to say "I love you" first sometimes, to kiss him goodbye when he left for work, and to greet him with a hug when he came home. I realized that while actions are my love language, words were his, and I needed to speak his language too. The tension that had once filled our studio apartment began to dissipate. We were learning to balance our needs and wants, to communicate better, and to show our love in ways that the other could understand and appreciate. One night, as we lay in bed, he turned to me and said, "I'm sorry for how I acted about your books. I guess I was just scared of losing you to those perfect romances." I squeezed his hand and assured him that those stories were just fiction, and that our imperfect, real-life romance was what truly mattered to me. As we move forward, I can see that we're both trying, and that's what counts. We're not the kiss good morning, say I love you every day kind of couple, but we're finding our way to show love in the ways that feel right for us. And while we still have our challenges, I'm hopeful. We're building a future together, one small gesture, one conversation, one compromise at a time. And maybe, just maybe, we're crafting our own real-life romance story, flimsy pages and all. Now, for the comments. Comment 1. "Oh honey, locking up those steamy novels like they're the crown jewels? I get it, your man's feeling like a dusty book on the shelf, but the answer isn't in a padlock. Time to pen your own love story, make him the swoon-worthy hero, and show him he's your #1 bestseller." Comment 2. "Been there. My partner thought my gaming was me choosing orcs over affection. We had a heart-to-heart, and now we schedule weekly co-op sessions. It's all about finding that sweet spot where your hobbies don't hog the love spotlight. Balance is key, just like in a good RPG." If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.